This week on JTV, we're creating a moss-covered bunny wearing a garland of flowers. And I've got a few tricks up my sleeve that'll show you how easy this project can be. Today's project, our moss-covered bunny, has an interior that's made completely out of styrofoam. So the first thing we'll do is create or sculpt our bunny. I'm going to use a few different shapes. We've got two spheres, a small cone, and a spray bar. The spray bar itself we'll cut down and create the bunny's body. For the hind legs and the head, we'll use the sphere. We split our sphere in half and then cut off the bottom to create the two hind legs. For the head, we've done a little more sculpting using our styro cutter. We turn on the styro cutter, we can just take a portion out of the sphere. Then we'll sculpt out two sides to give the head a little more shape. And removing one more piece at the bottom gives it a chin. So we have a great looking head that looks like that. And to make it sit flush against the body, we remove a portion off the back side. That allows it to sit flush against our body shape. I also created ears and a few arms. The ears were easily done by using our styro cutter. Cut off the top of the cone and then split it down the center. Using the styro cutter allows me to shape all of these different pieces so that they'll fit together properly. Now it's time for us to put all the pieces together and create our bunny shape. We'll start with the back legs, and they fit on our body just like that. We use a wood pick and insert it all the way through the body itself. Apply hot glue to the wood pick and place the leg on. Hot glue on that wood pick and push that together. That's going to ensure that it's going to stay in place when we're covering it with moss and wrapping it with wire. Next, apply some glue to our pick and put it into the back leg. And add the paw on the front of that. We'll do the same thing to the other side. So that's the back half of our bunny. Now, let's add two paws to the front. I love the way that glue and styrofoam go together because when they bond, it actually melts together and really adheres that wood pick inside nice and secure. Our body's starting to come together and our head goes on right there. Now I want that to fit a little bit closer, and right now it's not doing that very well. So we can take our styro cutter and shave a space for that to fit nice and snug. That's a lot better. Take off just a half an inch or so more. It's great to use a tool like the Styro Cutter because I can make little minimal changes as I'm creating it. There, that's going to be perfect. Put our head on like that. And now it's just our ears. You'll notice that I shave down the ears so that they have a nice curve. One goes on there. The other one's going to go on here, but I'll trim down this side just a fraction. So it fits nicely next to it. So, our Styrofoam bunny. The structure underneath allows us to create any shape we want. So, it could be a teddy bear, it could be a kitten. You could cover any shape you want to using the moss. I picked up the dried preserved moss, which has already been colored and already been dried. But to make it easier to work with, I wet it down a little bit. Putting it in a bucket and getting it damp makes it a lot more pliable for me to be able to use it. And we're just going to apply it directly to our form. I try and pick out bags like this that have nice big sheets so that I can cover a complete area with a piece of moss. Then we use our decorative wire. We can either use the metallic or we can use the bullion. I like using the bullion because it's a little bit finer and we're working with a smaller figure. But remember, this could also be big. We could make big size bunnies, or we could even make a grizzly bear if we wanted to. When I'm doing something this small, I want to use a little wire. So we start by taking our bullion wire and wrapping it around his arm. We can start anywhere on the sculpture, but we need to make sure that we attach that wire very securely. And we're going to continue to work with one continuous piece of wire, wrapping it around and holding the moss in place. Adding pieces of moss and then wrapping the wire over the top. If we have an area like this, we can also come back and make large sweeping strokes over the top. You'll notice that the wire's not tight and flush next to his body right here. We'll catch up with that a little bit later. We want to make sure that everything's secure. We might have a great big piece like this, and we'll just lay that over the top of our bunny. Making sure that we push it into place and that we're securing it all over. Come over here and get in between the leg. It's always great just to push on it too as we're working along. We'll use this same technique to cover the rest of the bunny. If we have little spots we want to cover up, we can just add another piece of moss. And secure it in place. Making sure that we keep our wire tight at all times helps keep our strength together and make sure that we keep the moss in place. We can go around every area of our bunny time and time again. It doesn't make any difference. So coming back and catching an area that hasn't been covered yet is easy for us. I've chosen to use the lime green wire because it's decorative. You could use regular baling wire, which would be concealed completely, or you could even use other colors like pink or red or yellow. You can be as creative as you like. If you have an area or a place that eludes you, you can always go back and fill in with a hot glue gun and a little touch of moss. But try and cover every area completely before you cut your wire. Then, to finish this, we'll bring our wire around and loop it underneath one of the wire pieces, snugging it up nice and tight. We can cut it off. We'll grab one other piece of wire and just twist it around there so that we've tied it and secured it in a nice spot on the bottom where it's hidden. Now comes the fun part, the haircut. We're just going to come back and trim this up, being cautious not to cut the wire, but coming back and trimming up the moss to give definition to our sculpture. If there's big hunks or pieces, we can pull those off as well. There. He's a great looking little bunny. Let's clean this up and get ready to put some accents on him. So we're all cleaned up. Now you're probably wondering, hey Jay, why didn't you whip out a hot glue gun and just glue the moss to the outside of the bunny? Because the moss is a dried product, it would break away from that hot glue. So we wanted to use the wet moss and the wire to help adhere it. So as a decorative accessory, this is a lot more permanent. Now, a collar of flowers around his neck is going to be really pretty. We'll start with some ribbon. A nice narrow orange. We'll tie that around his neck. Just using a basic shoestring bow, and we're letting our streamers hang nice and long. That'll be part of the decoration itself. Then we can use a few different types of silk flowers and apply those directly on top of the ribbon itself. Start with a couple of these big ones and put those right in the focal area. The hot glue is perfect for securing flower heads like this. And especially since these are a permanent botanical material, not dried, they're going to adhere and hold really well. I can snip off clusters like this and apply the glue and place them directly in to the bow. Little glue like that, and tucking that underneath this one allows that to fit in there nicely. Hydrangeas are great too, because I can just cut off a few blossoms like that, and that'll be enough. We can save this for another project. Working on a turntable like this too allows me the ability to spin my product around. Let's use a couple pieces of this purple flower that extends out a little bit. Notice how that adds some depth and dimension to our flower garland. Having this ribbon extended from the side and curling it like that adds dimensionality to the bunny itself. So our moss-covered bunny with his little flower garland is all ready for a wonderful summertime party. Until next week, keep having fun with flowers.